and welcome to Scrapbook.com. My name's Alexandra and today I'm here to show you some inspiration using the exclusive Scrapbook.com nested stars dies. You get 5 dies in the set here that all coordinate in size so you can layer perfectly with them. I'm going to be showing you how to create this really fun spinner card that has the double-sided star in there. The stars are included in a Scrapbook.com exclusive Sizzix Big Shot machine die bundle. In the bundle, we get the Sizzix machine here, which is the Big Shot. You have the Sizzix multi-purpose extended platform in here, so you can emboss, you can cut, you can use your embossing folders, any type of die you can use with this. You also get these wonderful ocean sparkle cutting pads that have lots of glimmer in them. Plus we give you the Sizzix sandwich, which shows you how to use whatever dies or textured impressions and things that you want to use. It tells you the correct sandwich you should be using with your Big Shot to get the best results. So let's get started with our card. So the first step is to create our watercolor background, and I'm going to be using the Premium Metallic Accent paints that give you this wonderful shimmery background. I really think it looks like a lovely moody night sky in there. It's really easy to create. The first thing I'm going to do is add some water to a few colors. I'm going to go with the purple, the pink, the blue and the green. I'm also going to spritz my cardstock. Now you could just take a paintbrush and apply water all over, but I find this is much quicker to just add that on there. I'm then going to take some various colors of paint. So I've got a couple of different paint brushes here. The first one I'm going to do is mix up some purple. By putting it onto the wet, you'll see it starts to bleed out and you will get some really nice color patches in there as well. These paints are awesome to work with. There's a nice variety of colors in here. Plus, if you work on black cardstock, they show up there too. And not everything needs to be covered because we're going to add those darker layers afterwards. We can move down to the blue. If you are happy with it, you can also, if you feel that your cardstock's a bit dry or maybe it's a little bit blotchy, you can mist it with some water and you can see there how those colours start to react and mingle a little bit more as well. You're then going to want to dry this, and I would recommend using the Ranger Heat It tool because it's not going to move around your paint, it's going to stay like that. It's going to dry it in place. I have done one that I've already dried for you. And this is how it came out. To this one, I also decided to add a little bit of copper and gold. So the next step is to add our black layer. Again, I'm going to add some water to this. I'm going to also spritz my cardstock. You'll see it reactivates some of that watercolor pigment. And now we want to start mixing in our black. So you'll notice I'm also using quite a large brush. I'm using a wide, flat one. I find that gives me a really nice watercolor background. And the thing with the black is you're not going to want it everywhere. I'd start around the edges and a variety of brush strokes. And you can see how it starts bleeding into those water areas. The watercolor paint is going to go anywhere it finds water. So I'm just going to start sketching around, leaving some places blank. And then again, I'm going to take my mister and I'm going to move that ink around. Sometimes you may want to, once you've dried this, sometimes I go back and add more black, or I might add a bit more purple. Each one is going to be different, so you'll just need to play around until you get the right colours for your card. Once you've dried this piece off, it will come out like this. And you can see there how lovely and moody that is. You can see there's some purples here, some reds and coppers, there's some of that green there. And you've also got some of those lovely night sky colours. So now we can move on to creating our little characters. So now we're going to stamp out and colour our cute little critters. I've chosen this Wish Upon a Star stamp set from Lawnform, which I think is perfect for this card. So I'm going to use the fox and the bunny, and we're also going to add a cute little glitter detail at the end to their tails here. You can see how they look all cute and fluffy. I'm using, again, a piece of watercolour cardstock, but I'm actually going to use the reverse because I want to be able to add water, but I still want that nice smooth surface to be able to stamp onto. Again, I'm using the Ranger Archival ink, which is a waterproof solvent-based ink, so we can use our watercolours or our zig markers on them. Just stamping each one of these out. And there are coordinating dies that are available as part of the set, which we're going to cut them out with once we are done. I'm also just going to grab my heat tool here, just a quick going over so that I can dry them off, make sure that ink is set. So now I'm going to pick out a couple of colours from my Zig marker set here, and I've got them in a little handy piece that you can get from Zig to store them in as well. So I've got a few colours here for our fox. So I'm going to choose some lighter greys for our bunny. There's a couple of different ways you can apply ink using these Zig clean colour markers. There's 80 colours available in total. You can buy small or large sets. They have a paintbrush tip on them that actually has fibres. If I put it on my paper there, you can see how it splays out. There's individual hairs in there that the ink comes through. So that gives you total control over where the ink goes. Now for the fox, I'm going to show you one option for applying the ink. You can put it down onto your craft mat, onto a ceramic tile, any non-porous surface that you can use here as a palette. Then I'm going to grab my aqua painter, and I'm actually going to use it quite dry. There's not much on there at all, so I'm not going to add any more water. If I do want more water, rather than squeezing with the aqua painter, you get quite a lot of water. I'm actually just going to mist a little bit to the side there that I can pull in if I need to. So let's start off with this light colour here. And we'll start colouring in Foxy. And I want it to be a nice warm colours in that moonlight. So we'll go from there. We'll then go down into a darker shade here. And of course you can always test it out to the side there. By adding the water, we're going to get a slightly lighter shade than if we directly coloured him in. And we'll add some shadows around his neck here. Then finally I'm going to go with that really deep colour. I'm going to colour here on his toe, a little bit around the bottom here and on the tail. I'm just going to pull that colour. So it will react exactly like watercolours. Anywhere there's water, it's going to start to creep towards that, and then you can fade it out as you go upwards. So you can see there it gets into those nice warm yellows and oranges at the top there. So that's one option for applying ink. Another one is being able to colour directly. So we can take our light grey here and colour our bunny in just like you would any other marker. We're going to colour all over, and I'm going to do the same, just adding some highlights around the ears, the base of her neck. Plus I would like a slightly darker grey. Now another way that we can apply ink with darker tones is we take a lighter pen and we can touch it just on the tip there of our darker pen. What that means is we start off with that dark colour, and as we keep going it's going to get lighter and lighter. And now I can just add that water, and you can see there how seamlessly those blends start to come together. I'm going to leave these little guys to dry and we can start doing our die cutting and start creating our spinner. So we've lots of die cutting to do, so we have lots of ways to use the bundle that's included. Let's bring in our Big Shot, and these are our ocean glimmer pads here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this star here. So this is like a framed star here. And for that I have 2 of the nested dies. And we're going to pop them both on there. We'll put some tape down. Put a cutting pad on. I've got all my multi-purpose platform tabs down for this. And let's wind it through. So that creates our star on there. So now we're going to create that small star, which is the other side of the wish on the watercolour panel. And for that, I've already created, this is silver lawn fawn embossing powder. I used that same lawn fawn stamp set to create this scene using some of the constellations and the Upon a Star stamp set. So we can create that. We'll pop that again on our plate. I'm using that smaller star, and I'm going to line up my Upon a Star. Again, I'm going to tape it in place so it's not going to move. And we'll wind that through. So there's our centre star. Next up, we're ready to die cut into our watercolour panel. Always the most nerve-wracking bit because we want to make sure we get it in the right place. So here's my panel. I'm going to cut out using my smaller star, and you're going to cut it out with this somewhere near the top, but you want to reference that your point has enough room. So my larger star's got enough room to sit there, and this is the smaller one that we use for the inner of that piece. Again, let's grab a piece of washi tape and stick that down. And again, we'll wind that through. So there's our star. From that piece, I want to cut a smaller star for the other side of our upon a star. So now I'm going to cut a smaller star out of that watercolour piece that we just took out of there. I'm going to put my smaller star in the middle and run that through my Big Shot again. And so when I peel back my washi tape, and I'll peel it fully off in just a second, you can see there we have our small star to go in the middle. Just a few more pieces to cut out. Next I'm going to do my rabbit and my fox. I have the coordinating dies here for them. And I'm going to do the same with the fox, and we'll tape that down too. So you can see there, you can see your fox all the way through the die, and that's how you know that you'll get the right die cut and the even edging around there. So here's our fox and our finished rabbit. Now we can cut out the little hillside for them to be on. I have a strip of white cardstock here and one of the stitched hillside borders dies. Again, we'll stick that down. I've put the arch of that piece somewhere towards the middle of that as well, so we sit that on the card later. Then we have one more thing that we need to cut, which is our piece to go through. Let's carefully pick this up. And now we need our spinner piece. So this is my card front base. We have piece 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, cut in half lengthways and scored down the middle there. We want to open it up. We're going to grab that watercolor piece, and we're going to grab that same die that we used here. And you'll find that it fits quite snugly in there. So you want it in exactly the same place again. And this will cut that hole out for us. And now we'll run that through the Big Shot. So once I reveal this piece, I'm going to carefully peel off that washi tape so that we don't remove any of our lovely watercolour. Once this is all stuck together, we will have our piece for our spinner to go through. Now you're also going to want to have another card front size piece of cardstock cut in exactly the same way with the star as well. So I'm going to cut, I've got one of those already cut, and now we can start doing our final assembly. So the next step is to add our wish detail to our watercoloured piece here. For that I have the same wish stamp out that Lawn Fawn set, and I popped it onto an acrylic block. I'm inking it up with some Versamark, and it fits perfectly across that piece there. Then I'm going to use some Lawn Fawn embossing powder. Let's pop it over this piece of cardstock. And I'm going to give it a little flick on the back, and you can see there how lovely that looks. And I'm going to use my Wagner heat tool to heat this up. I'm just going to catch the edge with my nail. Now we're ready to add our green grass border. I've got some Distress ink in Mowed Lawn and some of the Nouveau brushes. These are great for adding pops of colour and for blending. And I'm going to add a little bit here at the top. But I'm really going to add some darker colour at the bottom here so it looks like there's the shadows where they are sitting. So I want this to be a much stronger colour and just that hint of green everywhere else. The other piece of colour I want to add is on the star. If you have a look at the sample here, let's take that piece off, you can see it's not a real harsh black. I've made it with some lighter black, and I did that by adding some of the black Prima paint on there. So I just took a paintbrush and I brushed it over, and you can see that little bit of sparkle in the black just, I think, takes off some of the harshness and helps it blend nicely into the background, because that's the same paint that we used. So now we're ready for the best bit. We are going to create the spinner in the middle of our card. So here we have all the pieces that we've cut and coloured. Don't they look so colourful here on our worktop? The first thing I want to do is add that black border. So to do that, I'm going to take my watercolour piece and my black piece here. I'm going to use the Nouveau Deluxe adhesive. I really do like working with this one. I'm going to paste a dot at each point in and out of the star. This will dry clear too, so if you do have any leakage, you won't see it once it's dry. And I'm going to just drag that one out a little bit. Then, because they were cut with the same dies, it's going to line up perfectly. The next piece we need to do is put on our hillside. So let's have a look here. Again, I'm going to add some adhesive. I've got that hump in the hillside there in the middle. And I'm going to turn this over and I'm just going to trim off these edges with some scissors. And you can use your top piece of cardstock as a guide, butt your scissors up against it and you can trim it straight off there. We also want to add on our little critters. So again, let's place some adhesive on there. I'm going to place it on the lower portion. So if a piece of them does peek over the top of that star, it's not an issue. I try to line his ear up with this little point in there. And I'm going to do the same with my bunny rabbit. And she's a little bit smaller. And then I try to line her nose up on the edge there. So they were my guidelines. Now we have our card front piece. And we can stick this on the top. I'm going to also use the Nuvo adhesive for this rather than a tape runner, just because the panel's a little bit heavier. And whilst the tape runner would hold it fine, it's a bit of extra security. And we can scatter some of that adhesive around here. And of course, line up your star again, like so. So you have your window. Now we want to actually build our star spinner. So we want our two pieces here. Let's move that to the side. So we have our wish and we have our upon a star. I also have a piece of pretty twine. You can use metallic thread. Anything fairly thin will work. Let me just find the end on this. Here we go. And we want to cut a length. Like so. You can cut it longer than needed because we will tape it in and we can trim it down afterwards. So let's put it on the back of our wish. And I'm going to use a piece of Scotch tape to put it down. Go over the top. And then to add my upon a star, I'm going to use a couple of glue dots. So let's place some around. And then we can put our upon a star on there too. And this is the great beauty of using these dies. Everything's going to line up perfectly. Everything's the same size. So your twine's going to come out the top here and it's going to come out in this point down here. I'm going to place a little bit of adhesive and just press that into place. That will dry once my card is finished. So now we need to put this into place. To do that, we want to turn over our cards. So we have the inside of the card base there. I'm going to put a couple of twists in this piece. And this is where you could do with an extra pair of hands. And then going to add a piece of Scotch tape. I'm then going to line up my star rather, so I have a nice even border. Again, I'm going to put a couple of twists in the twine. And I'm going to pull it fairly taut, because you don't want a star that just flops around. So you've got it pulled nice and tight. Again, a piece of Scotch tape over that. And that's why I cut this extra star piece so that we can cover this up. I'm going to trim these down. Again, at the top here. And now we can stick this piece on top, which just creates that nice cover and creates a nice professional finish on there. So again, let's add some adhesive. We can turn this over. And there we are, that will layer on there perfectly. And you can't see any of those ends or Scotch tape. Once the adhesive's dry, I'll actually just trim off this little tail, but I'll wait till that adhesive is dry. However, once we then lift up our card, we have this wonderful spinner in there, which will spin backwards and forwards. Thanks so much for joining me here today at Scrapbook.com. Do check out all of our exclusive bundles and dies on the website. There's lots to see. My name's Alexandra from Hedgehog Hollow, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more from Scrapbook.com, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a message. Happy crafting.